Nebraska's brand new general manager, Pat Stewart, is changing Husker football forever. We've seen college athletics move a lot over the past couple years with the introduction of NIL, revenue sharing, roster limits, and so much more. But Stewart, since he got to Lincoln, he has took this to a completely new level. So in today's video, I'm going to go over every single change that he's made at Nebraska, the good, the bad, and everything else you need to know. It's going to be a very honest video about the future of Husker football. So before we get into all of it, hey, if you're having a good day, because I know I am, please hit that like button. And really quick, if you support the channel, it takes 2 seconds. For daily Husker football content all off-season long, join this family, hit that subscribe button. It would help me out a lot. But without further ado, let's get into it, having an honest conversation about Pat Stewart, Nebraska's newest general manager, and what he's been doing to Husker football, what the future looks like. Now, the first thing that I'm going to tell you right off the bat is general managers, they are the future of this sport. Okay? In 5 to 10 years, a general manager will have just as much power as a head coach, if not more. And they will be as recognizable as a head coach, they'll be as famous, and they'll have as big of a role. Okay, college sports, they're taking after the professional mold. They're taking after the NFL. They're taking after the NBA. So Pat Stewart, while at the time when we hired him about 2 months ago, it seemed insignificant, there might be a reality in the not too distant future where he is just as famous in the state of Nebraska as Matt Rhule, and he's just as important. Okay, because coaches aren't going to be recruiting as much. They aren't going to be involved in NIL as much. They aren't going to be involved in contract negotiations as much. That is where Pat Stewart steps in. We'll talk about that as the video progresses. But what's the biggest change that Pat Stewart has done so far? Well, it all stems to NIL. Because we know what NIL is doing in college football. It's completely changed it. It was turned it around, spun it on its head. Nebraska right now, they boast a top 20 NIL collective in the country. I'll be honest with you. It's probably even in the mix to be top 10. But what Pat Stewart's done so far, and this is a good thing, is he's made Nebraska's NIL sustainable. When you look at Ohio State, when you look at Texas, when you look at some of these other programs around the country, they have millions on millions of dollars and they're spending that every single year, but it's not sustainable. Okay, Oregon's spending, okay, I shouldn't use Oregon. Ohio State using, $30 million a year is not sustainable because at some point the university is going to run out of money. Sooner or later, the boosters are going to run out of money. You might not think that's going to happen, but it will. And the first thing that Pat Stewart's done, which is changing Nebraska football, is he's saying, hey, we have a lot of money. Our boosters have a lot of money, and we're going to spend $10 to $15 million on this team, which is what we're spending, by the way. If you don't know that, now you know. Nebraska is spending about $10 to $15 million on the team this year. Okay. He says, okay, we have this money, but we're going to be sustainable about it. Just because we have money, we're not going to go crazy. We're not going to blow a bunch of money on a running back in the portal. We're not going to spend $1 million on him because that's not sustainable. So we're going to be smart. We're going to budget the right way. And that means we have money for the long term. That means we have money for 2027. That means we have money for 2030. And it also means we have money for stadium projects, for equipment upgrades, for facility upgrades. A lot of these other programs can't afford that anymore. And that's why Nebraska's taking a big step ahead of them. So that's the first thing. Nebraska's using NIL very wisely. But the second thing on why Pat Stewart's changing Nebraska football for the good is he's treating this like the pros. And it should be mentioned that Pat Stewart, he comes in from the Patriots. He knows what he's doing. He's done this before at a high level, but we're treating it like the pros in regards to cap space. I already told you, let's just say we have $15 million to spend on the team this year. We're allocating only a certain amount of money to the quarterback position, only a certain amount of money to the running back position, and so on. So we might say, okay, we're going to spend only $4 million on the quarterback. Nothing more than that. We're going to spend $4 million on the offensive line. Nothing more than that. We're going to spend $2 million on the wide receiver core. Nothing more than that. Okay. It just shows you what is our most important position. That's how much we're going to budget, and we're not going to go over. Once again, very sustainable. So, for example, the running back position. Matt Rhule might sit down with Pat Stewart and say, okay, the running back position is only worth, let's say, let's say actually $500,000. We don't want to spend that much on running back. We don't think it's that important of a position. We're not going to go over that. And that's why Nebraska didn't get Chamar Brown in the portal, because they didn't want to spend on a guy that they didn't think he was worth it. Okay, so I know a lot of people were mad, we didn't get Chamar Brown because Miami spent $500,000. It wasn't in the cards. We're treating this like cap space. We're treating it like the pros. We're not going to go crazy with money just because we have it. Okay. And we're also implementing contracts so we don't get screwed over like what's going on, at Tennessee with Nico Amalavia, him going over to UCLA. Another big game changer for Pat Stewart. Okay, we're not just giving guys free cash. There's going to be contracts. You're going to be tied down to this so you don't leave and take your money with you. So that's a big change that Pat Stewart's made. And then another thing that people just really aren't talking about is how he's changed the recruiting philosophy already since he's got here. Again, Pat Stewart's, he's going to play a big role in recruiting. Okay, he's going to be a big part of that. Recruiting nowadays, especially in the high school ranks, we're going to talk specifically about the high school ranks. It's all about what can you do for me the second you get on campus. Because back in the day with high school, you could sit there and develop for a couple years, and that was fine. That's not the way anymore. Unless you're an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman, you have got to play immediately in the first 2 years, or else we're just not going to recruit you. Okay, if you're a wide receiver and we're evaluating you and we say, yeah, you might be good in 4 years, but you're not going to play right away, we're just not going to recruit you anymore because we have limited roster space. We're trying to bring in the best set of players immediately. And, if you sit on the roster for 4 years, you're just not doing anything. So that's the first thing that would change when it comes to recruiting is we're taking smaller classes and we're taking guys who can come in here and compete right away. And at the exact same time, with the transfer portal, we're treating it like free agency in the NFL. In the NFL, you don't build winning franchises with just free agency. You've got to draft at a high level. In college, that's high school recruiting. But what Nebraska does, just like free agency in the NFL, is they fix their gaps. Okay, they'll get 5-10 guys every single cycle to come in here and compete at a high level. We'll pay them as much money as they're going to get paid, and hopefully they're key contributors. So that's how we're treating this. We're treating it just like the NFL, where you build the majority of your team in the high school ranks, you fill in the gaps throughout the transfer portal, which is free agency. But if you expect Nebraska to make or break their team in free agency or the transfer portal, it's just not going to happen. So that's really how we've changed up the recruiting philosophy. And again, we're recruiting the high school ranks. We're not going after projects anymore. We're going after guys who can play right away. That's a big difference that we've done with Pat Stewart. Last thing that's really been important since Pat Stewart got to Nebraska, it's all about retention nowadays. Okay, cool. You got a big high school commit. Let's just use Dossamer as an example. Dossamer's not going to leave, so I feel comfortable using him. Okay, cool. You got Dossamer, borderline 5-star talent. But just because he committed to you and just because he's on campus in his freshman year doesn't mean he's going to stick around for all 4 years. So now Nebraska, they got to continue to recruit him while he's actually with the team. You got to have a good retention rate. And that's what a lot of programs, losing programs, are struggling with nowadays. Okay, they brought in a really good class, but you're losing all those guys to the portal the next year, just like Colorado's doing, just like Ole Miss is doing. Okay? Even Georgia has this problem nowadays. So what I saw that say this, Nebraska has done a really good job building a sustainable program, not only through being very conservative with their NIL, new recruiting philosophy, but when they get a player, they're making sure they retain them for all 4 years. And that's with contracts, that's with a culture of excellence, that's with a great coaching staff, and that's with Pat Stewart. So really feel good about that. And the last thing I'll say as well is that we've completely upheld this front office. The front office does not look the way it did a couple years ago. Okay, we've treated this like an NFL team with the front office. We have specialists for analytics. We have specialists for contracts. We have specialists for scouting, assistants, player strategy, stuff along those lines. We are treating this like an NFL front office. It's looking more and more like the NFL every day. We're trying to capitalize. We're trying to have a competitive advantage. We're trying to make sure that the coaches are only focused on coaching, and now we have people to cover the rest, whether that's recruiting, whether that's analysis, whether that's whatever. The portal, the coaches are going to coach, and the analysts are going to do everything else. So listen, it's going toward an NFL mold. Matt Rhule's role is going to decline as the years progress, and Pat Stewart's role is going to increase. This is the future of the sport. Take it for what it's worth. But I think Pat Stewart's actually doing a really good job. There's not a bunch of things that I've seen him do so far, and he's only been here for 2 months, but I think he's being very proactive. He understands that the future of college football is coming sooner rather than later. We got to adapt, and we got to be on the cutting edge because that's how we get ahead. So, all right, guys, let me know your thoughts down below about what Nebraska's doing with Pat Stewart. Absolutely want to hear what you say. Hey, if you made this far in the video, you know what to do. Hit that like button and subscribe. As always, folks, go grab, go Matt Rhule, and I'll see you in the next one.